Welcome to your monthly market report for November 2022. My name is John Ray with Berkshire Hathaway Gateway Real Estate. And today we're going to walk you through several of the most important topics that we can be talking about in the housing market right now. We're going to give you the latest updates on mortgage rates and home prices, something that we're all following very closely in today's housing market. And we're going to attempt to answer a question that many of us are asking at this time. Should I buy a home right now? A lot of clients and buyers are asking this, is this a good time to buy a home? And while everyone moves through that process at a different pace and for different reasons, we want to help you answer that question. With that, let's begin today with the update on mortgage rates. And the big question is, will mortgage rates keep rising? So let's take a start by looking at the graph you've likely seen before, and it says that mortgage rates are on the rise this year. This is the Freddie Mac 30-year fixed rate from January of 22 through today. This was released at the beginning of November, and what we can see is mortgage rates have been climbing drastically this year. This is what we've all been feeling. Look at that steep incline. And they even ticked up over 7% over the past couple of weeks, and that's causing the cool down in the market. This is causing people to pause their plans and say, hey, I'm not sure I really want to buy right now. Some people are even being priced out of the market. Mortgage rates have actually, if you look at this graph, more than doubled in this year. That has never happened before in a calendar year. So it's really important that we keep our eyes on mortgage rates and the pain people are feeling because of their rising so fast. It's not necessarily just about the 7% number that we're starting to see them tick up and down. It's about the rapid rise. And I think this quote from Freddie Mac really says it well. U.S. 30-year fixed mortgage rates have increased 3.83 percentage points since the end of last year. That's the biggest year-to-date increase in over 50 years. So, uncertainty making people press pause. It's making them question their plans. As a market expert, it's my job to help my clients understand why this is happening and what do we expect going forward. And I think at the end of the day, and we've been saying this for a while now, it's all about inflation. So take a look at this quote from Realtor.com. It says, with inflation still running at a 40-year high and the Fed expecting a few more rates increase to combat it, mortgage rates will experience upward pressure through the end of 2022. So why is that? Because the Federal Reserve is making moves to raise the federal fund rates, they are trying to lower inflation. They're trying to slow down the economy. And in doing so, they don't target mortgage rates, but mortgage rates tend to respond. And that's exactly what's happening. It's thought that while inflation is high, mortgage rates are going to remain high. So we're seeing that expected upward pressure through the end of the year. Now, the good news is, and I think this says it well, that Mark Fleming from First American says, while mortgage rates are expected to continue to drift higher over the coming months, much of the rapid increase in rates is likely behind us. So we're not talking about mortgage rates doubling again. Mortgage rates are feeling that pressure. The Fed is making active moves to lower inflation. mortgage rates respond. We're still seeing high mortgage rates, but we're not expected to see this exponential increase as we continue to move forward. So as we start to see the Fed making moves to lower inflation and to really kind of get this under control and see what's happening in the economy around us, the question starts to come into play: what about a recession? You know, that's the next thing on the radar is, what happens? Is there a recession around the corner? And this data from the Wall Street Journal is really helpful. It's a survey where the Wall Street Journal asked economists, what are the chances of a recession happening in the next 12 months? And as you can see from the chart over on your left side of the screen, in January of 22, about 18% of the economists said, you know what, I think we're going to see a recession over the next 12 months. Well, as inflation has stayed high, we've seen economic pressures in the world around us, we've seen the housing market change. You know that percentage of economists who are expecting a recession over the next 12 months has continued to increase. And the latest data, released in October, shows that 63% of economists feel that there is going to be a recession sometime over the next 12 months. And this is reflective of where we have seen the economy go over the past year. And it starts to spark the question, what does that mean for the housing market? So as we look at the housing market, there's a lot we can learn from history. And you've seen us share this graph before. But let's keep in mind that a recession does not mean falling prices, okay? So, in 4 of the last 6 recessions in this country, home prices have actually increased. Now, we all remember the housing crash in 2008, and I think that it is fresh on our minds and people are fearful of that. But we have to remember is we have a very different landscape right now. When it comes to inventory levels, when it comes to the lending standards, when it comes to home equity people have in their home, all of these factors are driving the housing market in a different direction. Now, what this graph does not mean is that we won't have falling prices, but it does mean that it doesn't happen every time. So when we think about what happens in the housing market, if a recession is in play, we have to put this in context altogether. And I think one thing we can also learn about what history tells us is that a recession more likely means falling mortgage rates, because in those same 6 recessions, mortgage rates have dropped each time this country has seen a recession. You know, we're going to have to see how all this plays out. We're going to have to see what happens with inflation, what happens with mortgage rates. We're going to talk about prices in just a few moments as well, but it doesn't always mean that prices will fall. And of course, you can see here traditionally mortgage rates have come down. So they've risen very dramatically, and what history shows us is that at some point they turn. So that's what we have to keep our eye on. I understand there's a lot of fear, a lot of uncertainty when you start to say recession in the housing market. Now I want to talk next about what the experts are saying about home prices, because I think this is another big question on everyone's mind, and certainly something that we all want to help you answer the question. We've seen mortgage rates rising, and that is easing the fury and the frenzy that we've seen in the housing market. But what does that mean for prices? So let's take a look at this quote from Redfin. It says, for those bearish folks eagerly awaiting the home price crash, you'll have to keep on waiting. As much as demand is pulling back, supply is as well, and that's reducing downward pressure on prices in the short run. So what does this mean? This means that houses are staying on the market longer. We're not seeing an influx of new listings. It is still a seller's market. And what we know is that prices are driven by supply and demand. And this is continuing to put upward pressure on home prices. However, it's also giving more opportunities for buyers. So we're seeing that the shift in the market. Now, I want to bring you the latest update we have on home prices forecast for next year. Because of this part is changing as we continue to have this conversation. So we like to look across the board at several different experts and kind of average them out so you can get the full picture here. What you can see here is that some experts are projecting a little bit of appreciation next year. That's what you see in the blue bars, anywhere from 0.7 to 2.6% appreciation. We have other experts that are projecting slight depreciation. So it's across the board, a little bit up, a little bit down, depending on how the experts are looking at it. If you drop the high and the low from the estimates, you'll see neutral area for depreciation and appreciation. On the local level, this chart shows the changes we've had in the Tri-County area from September to October 2022. The number of active homes on the market has increased to 15,054, while the average list price, not the sale price, but the price sellers actually placed the home on the market for, has dropped from $344.25 to $335.215. Both homes sold and the average sale price dropped by 17.51% and 6.8% respectively. 2023 is looking to be a mixed bag as far as appreciation and depreciation in homes are concerned. We've talked about interest rates, we've talked about prices. Now I want to sort of shift the conversation to a question I think is on a lot of people's minds right now. And that's, should I buy a home? This is a question being asked by many of the people I talk to on the phone on a daily basis. And I think the first two topics of interest rates and prices are critical to answering that question. You know, we started talking about the dramatic rise in interest rates we've seen this year by the Federal Reserve, the dramatic rise in mortgage rates. There's two things everyone should consider when they're thinking about buying a home. The first question is, what do I believe about mortgage rates? Secondly, what do I believe about home prices? And then I'm going to form my relevant market opinion based on that to help someone answer those extremely personal questions. You know, if they want to wait, it's the best thing for them. We want to help them do that. We want to educate them on what's happening, certainly nationally, but also in our local market. Our expertise and information. Here's the bottom line. What's the alternative? The alternative is renting. And this slide right here shows the median asking rental rate going way back to 1988. But rents across the country have skyrocketed. If you're in a rental trap and you're sort of paying through the nose for your rent, then you can't afford to save for a down payment. You can't afford to get into a home, which then allows you to build wealth over time. We know that homeownership wins. We maybe get too focused on it, and I'm not saying we shouldn't be focused on it, that is a 7% interest rate, or we get too focused on prices. And there are certainly people who have been priced out of this market. But the bottom line is buying a home over time wins many people that it gives more people the option down the road through the use of their equity. And that's not even counting all the non-financial benefits that people get from buying a home. I think Odetta Kushi says this best, and she said this: if you can find a house that meets your financial expectations or a monthly payment, and it's a good time for you to buy, then do that. And if you wait for the prices to fall, but they never do, you may discover the hard way that the house you found a year ago that you really love, that you could afford, but you passed up on, is more expensive next year. And I think that's the bottom line. Certainly, local market dynamics are playing a role, and you need to be educated on what's happening there. But there are some people on the sidelines going, I'm going to wait till prices fall. And I don't think we're going to see that. We went through the expectations of what experts are saying about 2023 market. And really giving that good advice and what's important to you, let's look at the interest rate. Let's look at the prices. Let's understand rents. That's our job today, because if we don't do that job, here's what's at stake. I think Jason Lewis from Parcel said this very good. In the absence of a trustworthy, up-to-date information, real estate direct decisions are increasingly being driven by fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And these decisions can be hugely consequential for consumers. But my job here as an educator is to use tools and resources to educate them on what is actually happening in the market. If you have questions about any of the information discussed in this month's video, please reach out. I will be happy to discuss what is happening in the market to assist you in making a decision that is correct for your needs.